Yeah. So welcome everybody to our fifth or sixth, I can't remember, session of the collective imagination practice community. And really excited that today we've got Jay with us, and they will be supporting us to radically reimagine education and learning. So Jay's been working in this area for a while and has lots of hands-on practice, and she's actually run this workshop with different kinds of folks in different kinds of configurations. So they're sharing something very rich with us today. And I think on that note, Jay, I'll hand over to you. Actually, just before I do, just a reminder that this is our practice session. So that means that we do give this stuff a go. We will be inviting you to get into breakout rooms and to experiment with it. And that takes a certain amount of vulnerability and courage from all of us to do that. And I want to just kind of acknowledge that, but also really ask you to sort of step up for that. Our final half hour, so this is an hour and a half session, and we always design it so that if people can only stay for the hour, it's still going to feel like a complete process. But then we kind of take it a bit deeper in that last half hour, helps us just to sort of like really dig in. So if you have to leave on the hour, don't feel awkward or any of that sort of thing. That's how it's designed. And if you can stay, great, that's brilliant too. So Jay, I really am going to hand over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, like Hannah said, this is a process that I've been playing with for many years now. It was really dreamed into being when I used to interview people from all over the world around what they were trying to change in education when I worked at 100 and I was mapping out innovations. And I noticed that one of the biggest blockers to change was that people felt they couldn't imagine it actually like working in the way they hoped to. And that really bothered me. And I couldn't understand like what it was about it when people were doing such incredible things and they were even sometimes finding funding. So I developed this imagination practice for people to drop into together. And I've used it with people like Hina, with Big Change. And I've also used it at the UN with many different young people, as well as like education system change leaders all around the world from like 80 different countries. And it's just a fun way to drop into it together. It's also can be used for many different things. So if you don't want to do it around education, I know lots of you here are interested in imagination practices, you can adapt it and use it for anything that you're passionate about. Maybe it's healthcare, maybe it's change, maybe it's burnout, whatever it is. So we're going to begin with something very, very simple. You're just going to drop into the chat how you feel about the rest of this prompt, which is education is. Education is the initial like first feeling in your body or the word that comes to mind, just like the first thing down. Education is just blah. Just plop it into the chat for me. Education is broken, a human need, outdated, universal, changing, life-saving, hard, a propaganda tool or a tool for liberation, for life, disconnected, constant, imposed, important. I feel heavy in my body. I feel like it's a big slog. Constant, in need of refreshing, helping people be who they're meant to be, vital, playful, opening, social. Education is challenging. Wow, so yeah, really a mix there of like a lot of the like negative, challenging feelings, which is good to get out, as well as like the hopeful, possible things that it can be. Like here, inspiring, breath, discovery, relationship, amazing. Unjust, which it totally is, and something that I'm sure lots of us are passionate about shifting. Okay, now we're gonna do the next prompt, which is school feels like. School feels like. So zooming into what we think a school is. What does school feel like? A trap, a box, yesterday, a job, prison, wow, a factory, a burden, a tool to uphold the status quo, a waste, a wasted opportunity, power over, average, not creative, a waste of time, flying, institution, an opportunity for change, a place to build relationships, feels like a straitjacket, could be a community of learning, a factory for a future that doesn't exist, place to meet people, inflexible, hopeful, an outdated system, an invitation, a playground or a sandbox. Great, thank you so much for that. Really, this magical little poem of what school feels like. Feels a lot, though, like I was getting, especially at the beginning, this feeling of like, I'm stuck in prison and I'm trapped in a box. Needs to be different. Okay. And then think about like your experience of learning right now. So we're zooming into like, what is it for you? So you're going to answer the next prompt. I wish there was more time to learn. I wish there was more time to learn. Maybe you remember this from school, but maybe it's in your time now. I wish there was more time to learn. That learning is fun. Yes. About my relationship with the earth, with others, how to just be, learning to be collaborative, about learning ignorance is CO2, curious, always make time to learn things that I care about, things connected to my passion, how to communicate, how to read faster. I wish there was more time to learn, but distracted by jobs and need to survive. Outside, be happy with yourself through my own body for our innate wisdom, multi-species collaborations with other beings, more time to unlearn, how to practice joy, to play, to be creative, amazing, to be in circle. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing those little insights with me. So you're going to have an opportunity now to go into breakout groups and just have a bit more of a further conversation about what education is. What does it feel like? What is the purpose of learning and education today? You're going to have 10 minutes for this, and then you're going to come back and share. And you're going to be in groups of 3. So just try and give each other space and time to talk about this, and just like meander with the conversation. There's no rules around it. Just how do you feel about it? What's its purpose? And then we'll come back and have a little share back.
Sorry, Jay, remind me, how long have we got in the breakout rooms?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay.
Minutes in groups of 3. And this is just really like grounding us in like what is going on. And then we'll move into the dreaming section of what if, to open up our imagination. So you should be able to join a breakout room now. I think it's popped up on your right hand side. Oh, we were having a really interesting discussion with some latecomers. I really hope that you all were as well. We're just going to have 10 minutes now to share back as a community, like in this Zoom circle pod that we're in. Okay, great. Thanks, Zoom. And I would just love to hear like popcorn style from your groups. Was something up, Hannah?
I was just going to say, if you want to ask people to add their hand, they'll go to the top of the screen. So we've got a couple of screens worth of people.
Great. Yeah, that's a good idea. So if you can raise your hand if you want to share, or you can go popcorn style, like what you noticed. Were there any fears? Were there any hopes? What's going on? What did you feel is the purpose of education right now? Throw it into the middle. Vita, go.
Hello. We had a really lovely group and we talked about lots of things, but I think we started off with talking about education, and then we ended up talking about education systems in this country. And, you know, as we were like ending the conversation when the breakout room was drawing to a close, I realized that we'd kind of talked about two things that are kind of in contrast in a way.
Could you say more about that? Say more about the contrast.
Well, we were talking about, you know, like learning and the term education and what it means, and for whom, you know, for children or for adults. But then when we introduced the idea of school, and we talked specifically about the private and state schools and how they differ, and we discussed whether that's one system or two systems, but we agreed that it's not something that's really working out for society, that the system or systems of education are not really doing what they're set out to do. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like now I am, you know, misquoting the rest of my team. I'd really love them to come in and help me out.
I'm sure you're doing a great job. Yeah, see, Alex.
Thanks, Alice.
Yeah, so in the separation of these two systems, the private and the state, like that neither of them are doing a good job. What did you guys think the purpose of education was? What would be doing a good job? What did you feel that they should be doing?
Better citizens, so to introduce young people into society in the best possible way, as education, you know. And then we said, is that really what education, you know, that's the ideal way to see it, but then in realistic terms, how do people use it? You know, and I said people use it to gain something for themselves and their families, their children, you know, to have one over the rest by having better education. You know, what does it mean, better education? And then from that we went on to talk about systems, but then systems are not education, you know, systems and education is education. So we linked it apparently seamlessly, but in the end, it's not really seamless. It's completely divergent.
Yeah, so it makes sense. It's like using these different like education systems to, like, if you can afford to go to private schools, leveraging it to kind of have a better life, but also makes you perhaps more individualist, or continues the system that perhaps many of us don't want to continue in the same way. Great, thank you so much for sharing, Rita. It sounds like you had a really great conversation. I'd love to hear like another point that like adds, or you know, adds something else into the sphere about what you noticed you feel the purpose of education is. Maybe, yeah, all right, go.
Hi there, thanks. So I really enjoyed our group. We'd got 3 very different perspectives and experiences in the education field, and so I feel we were discussing that we've sort of got 3 takeaways that that I heard overwhelmingly in each of as we each spoke, and I'm really happy for Andre and Jay to jump in and correct me. So we talked a bit about how there's an inflexibility within the education system, which really undermines and undervalues and excludes some people from being able to thrive in a learning environment. And that we talked about how there's it can be appropriated for propaganda, and that the scope of learning can actually be restricted if people feel that their values and beliefs they're not prepared to allow people to explore difference in the world, and actually to kind of, I guess, blacklist certain areas of learning. And we talked about how the it can feel often that it's a political toy, and that often the overwhelming sense of why it's why education is fundamental to our society is about creating a workforce rather than supporting people to develop their talents and to create thinking spaces for thinking. And in fact, one person used the word slavery, that they felt that was the that by perpetuating creating people ready for our current workforce, it felt as if it was perpetuating a type of slavery to the current systems.
Yeah,
please feel free to add anything from my group. I'm sure I've only précised a very little bit of what might have been your position as well.
Yeah, or any reactions as well as we're going along, if anyone's kind of in agreement. I saw Vita also thumbs up to this feeling of like the system perpetuating the workforce, and that, you know, could be used as this metaphor of like modern slavery. Yeah, I think that I was really resonate with those feelings. One of the things I'm trialing in a school at the moment, I work at a democratic school part-time, is a completely co-created inquiry-based humanities curriculum with the young people. And one of the questions that they wanted to explore this year was like, why is history so Eurocentric? And it's really been amazing to like explore these lessons with them, and to really question why we're learning what we're learning, who gets to decide, like, why are we in this strange place. Really resonate with that, Mark. Thank you for sharing those perspectives. Maybe time for one more person to share like something that came up from them in the group, and also feel free to add things in the chat as well if you're like, oh, I want to say this. Please do. Benjamin.
Yeah, just because I think the topics that came up in our group were kind of related to those you just mentioned. So on the point of perpetuating a sort of system, I guess, is the first thought that came into my mind when thinking about education, which is the fact that in formal education, a lot of it is still based upon like retaining knowledge and just knowing things, right? Whereas a lot of the modern day challenges would rather require something like critical thinking, problem solving, how to work together. And then Zhao also brought up the point that it's very unequal, and I guess perpetuating colonial perspectives, which connects in part again to what you said. And yeah, Raimi and Penny brought up these nice points of also the community aspect. So who's learning from whom and with whom. I guess Penny also brought up this nice metaphor of a forest, that education should be more like a forest of young and old, for example. So yeah, lots of aspects coming together, I guess, in this point, without trying to problematize too much.
And I have to honour, thank you, Ben, I have to honour Nora Bateson in that, because she talks about learning like a forest. So that's where the quote came from.
Beautiful. Yeah, I definitely resonate with the education system perpetuating colonization, and I think a lot of people feel like that today, and it concerns me greatly when different systems around the world copy like the UK or the US and kind of feed a story that we're better than, and it feels like it like furthers this like history that we have power over, and it feels strange to me. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for everyone's share back. I really loved hearing all of your thoughts, and it really feels like I could talk about this forever. We're just going to take like a 2-minute break, and I just really encourage you, because we're going to go into a dreaming exercise together next. So I just encourage you to kind of like get up and stretch or move your body, or go to the toilet or go get some water, or just kind of like, well, remember you're a person with a brain and a body and hands, and do that. And then at 3:40 we will begin together again with a little playful exercise and our imagination practice. So just then take 2 minutes. Just great. So if you want to join us back, either turn your video back on or come join us. You are going to go into breakout rooms, and you're only going to be in there for literally 4 minutes. This is super fast. And so you don't have to worry too much. And you're going to do a story about anything. So lots of you, I'm sure, will have heard this game before. Maybe you played in drama at school. Maybe you've done it in a different workshop. But it's called Yes And someone's going to start it off. So it might be, I walked into the playground and I saw a, and then the next person will say something like, a unicorn. Yes, and then the next person goes, and the next person goes, and the next person goes. So me and Hannah can do a quick example for 30 seconds. So if I start the story, Hannah.
Yeah, love it. Come
on. I walked into a school one day and I saw a
tennis ball covered in saliva.
Ooh, yes, and I looked around to see if there was a dog who had done that, but
there wasn't, but there was a beaver.
Oh, and the beaver had wings and was on a mission.
Despite having wings and being on a mission, its mission was emerging through burrowing rather than flying.
Okay, so you get the picture. Just be as wild and weird and silly as possible. That is the brief. So anything that comes to your imagination, just let it go. You're going to be in groups of 5, and it's literally going to be for 4 minutes. We're just going to do a quick story. Just get our like imagination juices flowing, and then we'll come back together. See you very soon.
Like, ooh, button, must press.
See button, must press.
This is one of those exercises I wish I could have been the fly on the wall of all the stories. I was like, what things do people come up with? Welcome back, welcome back. I can see so many people giggling, so this feels like it worked. Excellent. Yay, welcome back. I was just saying, I wish I could have been on the fly on the wall for all of the stories and laughing at what comes out when it's round to you. Usually I do this workshop for a lot longer and I play like multiple games, and we have more time playing games, but it's just to give you a sense of like, let's play a mini game and then do something else. So now we're going to go into what I call the collective dream ritual. And this requires everyone to change their name, which, you know, you've got your 3 little dots, to 3 little dots. So I'm going to do it for you. You're going to enter your new name here, and it's going to be 3 dots. That's it. I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat in case that's even too confusing for anyone. Just copy and paste that. Change your name to 3 dots. So everyone is anonymous, and we have to be anonymous, otherwise this won't. Well, it will work, but it's nice to be anonymous. Dots. Okay,
So
Alice.
you go to the top right hand corner of your little picture that's you on Zoom, and you click on that, and at the bottom it says rename, and then your name should come up, and then instead of your name you delete your name and you put 3 dots.
Someone has put 3 dashes, which is also totally fine, but
cheeky.
I know who you are.
Right. There
Not
are
had that
some
happen
people
before.
that haven't done it, and I'm tempted to put them in the waiting room.
Anna's being the strict teacher, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, Kate, could you please change your name?
Abdul,
Vita
Vita, 3 dots.
and Abdul, 3 dots, please. Okay, well, I'm being generous. I'm giving you some
Okay.
time. Whilst you
Yeah.
talk,
While I explain.
yeah, well, thank you, Kate. Nicely done. Thank you, Abdul.
So this is a dream.
Oh, I can't do it.
Oh, okay.
Let me
So,
try.
oh, it's because you're in your.
Oh, hang on. I might be able to do it for you.
We won't keep.
I can do it. I can rename you.
Great.
What a power.
Did you do it?
Rename everyone.
Did you do it? Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, I think.
Sorry,
I'm
I'm on my phone because I have to go and pick up my kid. The nurse called me from school, and so it's all.
Rita.
But I'm soldiering on.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this was inspired by Rob Hopkins and his work on what if questions. And I was like, oh, I wonder what would happen if, when we were in the pandemic, people came online and they shared their dreams anonymously. And I found a playlist of music that inspires imagination. So it's just over 9 minutes long. So I will put on the music for 9 minutes. And during those 9 minutes, you're invited to share in the chat questions about reimagining learning and education, like your biggest dreams, anything at all. And you literally always start it with what if. So I'm going to put an example in the chat. So my go-to is, what if we could dance every day? What if we could dance every day? That's one of my biggest dreams for learning and education. If you want to do like, what if we could dance every day? And the music will go on and we will be in that space together, and you can write anything you like. And then we will come back and have a little share back. And then for those of you who have to leave, you can magic your way away. And for those of you who can stay, we will go into another collective dream exercise. So I'll put the music on now, and you are invited to start sharing in the chat your biggest dreams for learning and education. That was speedy. Give yourself a little hand wiggle, round of applause. That was amazing. It was so beautiful. So beautiful to read everyone's dreams. Usually I participate, and I thought, oh, maybe I won't. And it was really incredible to just like witness all of your dreams just like rolling through so fast. It's just like, yeah, incredible. The invitation now is to like, and this is incredibly hard because there was a range of incredible ones here. Like there was, what if we could learn from flies, to what if we celebrated failure, to what if we had classes underwater, and what if we made space for the sadness and the grief, and like what if we learn that everything was just enough. There was, what if we learn mental health is more important than physical experiences. There are so many incredible things here. But the invitation now is to kind of just like really let like one like land in your body, like read through them again, or be like, yeah, when I read that I was like, absolutely that one. Thank you so much. I don't know who you are because I've made you anonymous, but thank you for being here. And yeah, thank you anyone else who has to leave. I really enjoyed holding this space, and you can get in touch with me at radicalreimagination.com. But yeah, if there's one that you could zoom into, like what if we learned to teach peace, or what if it was enough? We're gonna now go into groups. There's gonna be 5 groups, and you're gonna have an opportunity to design the future of learning and education with that question in mind. So something that you're taking like close to your heart. And we're going to have different groups where you're going to be either in what do we learn, how do we learn, where do we learn, who do we learn it with, and why are we learning it. So you can imagine you're a designer of learning and education, and you get to take your question, or maybe it's too hard to pick. Maybe there are like a few that were just like, yeah, those were amazing, I want to do those, I want to bring those into life. And we're going to pretend we're in 2060 and you're designing it like either what do we learn.
Hang on, tell me, group 1 is what do we learn.
What do we learn? I'll write them down. What do we
learn? You tell me and I'll write them down.
How do we learn it?
Do we learn? Group 2, how do we learn it?
Yeah. Group 3 is where do we learn? Group 4 is who do we learn with? Who are we learning with? There were some amazing ideas there about grandmothers and intergenerational and mixed age groups. And why do we learn? Why are we learning? What's the purpose? What's the point? What's going on in 2060? So this is your stepping over the threshold into your group, and you have 50. Yes.
Hang on. How many sorry, that's not my problem. How long do we have?
15 minutes.
Okay. All right, it's coming, people, it's coming.
And you can have your name back now. Your identity is relinquished. But yeah. So answering those questions. What do we learn? How do we learn it? Where do we learn it? Who do we learn it? Why do we learn it? Go.
All right.
So sorry, I didn't understand. Are we supposed to? We're not supposed to pick one of the groups. We're just being zoomed into one.
Your
question that are like alive for you, and you're going to use that as an opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah. I'm going to be reassigning some because it's gone a bit weird. All right.
Who's that from Voice 21? I was used to. Hello. That's good. That means they're
really good.
Yeah. Yay. Welcome back.
Here they come.
Hello.
The dream of the future. 2060 is about to arrive.
Yeah.
Ahead of schedule.
Yay. 2060. Here we go. Thanks, Helen.
No problem, Helen.
Yeah. All right, welcome back. We're going to do a quick 5-minute sharing. So we're going to be still in the world of 2060, and we're going to go to group 1. What do we learn? Give us your 3 top ideas that you came up with. You've got 1 minute. What do we learn? Who's going to be the spokesperson for the What Do We Learn group?
Group 1.
Popcorn style.
Yeah, go.
Some interesting things we talked about. Open learning. So what to learn depends on who is learning. And also one thing that came to me, to my attention, was a balance between teaching and learning. So there are interesting stuff to be taught, but also maybe existing knowledge is not true, is not good. So we have to help exploration of new things.
Amazing. Thank you. That's the what are we learning? So group 2 is how do we learn? How are we learning it? Who's going to share that? How are we learning it?
Go for it, Devin.
Luckily I wrote this. We talked about a lot of different things. So we started with play. Play is a space to like open up possibilities and really connect us with our imagination. But play isn't possible without safety. And like a space where it allows that failure, like you get to fail forward, failure is celebrated in the space. And then being able to like really sit with that and contemplate, reflect on our experiences. But none of this is possible without that like sense of belonging and safety that comes from like the exploration of the relational selves. And what else? Really being in that experimental place, trusting the not knowing. And then tuning people and like supporting children and learning and honing their like habits of the mind and being connected to their own emotional and physical bodies, like learning what is your core, what do you want, what do you need, what are your values, and moving from there. Being able to listen to your emotions, being able to listen to your pain, to your fear. I went to Wanda, said this thing that just I love. We are not logical people having an emotional experience. We are emotional people having a logical experience. I just think that is such a like, exactly that. And so like really teaching us that like how we learn, we have to know ourselves to know how we learn. And that is really just like listening to our bodies, listening to our emotions, listening to our reactions to what we're learning and figuring out how that lands for us, and playing with all of that. And then we talked about peace and how like understanding well-being, understanding that like all things can be and land in well-being, and like supporting all generations of learners in holding all of the complexities of life in well-being and moving from there.
Oh, so beautiful. So we're like in a world where we're contextually learning and there is some teaching, but there's lots of exploration and it's through play, and we're paying attention to safety and belonging and recognizing our like deep emotional bodies and ourselves, and centering our peace and well-being in the complexity. Beautiful. Okay, amazing. Where are we learning? Group, where are we learning? What have we got? 1 minute for your beautiful synopsis. Where are we learning? Where? Where
I jump in.
Thanks.
So we had all kinds of thoughts, but we talked about the value of routine learning very locally, and probably the need to not travel so much, so being very local, but also the need to learn with people in different parts of the world. So there was this lovely idea of kids learning with kids in other countries every day, which would be amazing. And because it's 2060, we might beam ourselves there rather than Zooming. But one interesting thought that came up was that we hadn't read a sci-fi book where kids are in school, they're just doing stuff. So maybe we should be listening to that. And you know, schools just won't be around in 2060, so we'll just be learning everywhere. There we go. Beautiful.
Learning everywhere and locally and beaming all over the world with children. Very cool. And how are, wait, that's not how, it's who. Who are we learning with? Who? A group of who? Doctor Who's?
I'll talk a bit, but everyone please chip in. We talked about we talked about learning with elders And we also talked about learning with all beings, so more than human world. And started imagining what it would be like if we had a council of all beings that we as learners consulted in our different spaces. So what would it look like to be hearing from the beaver and the fig tree very regularly? You know, how would we evoke them? Who would be representing them? And yeah, how would we normalize it in a kind of space, education space for young people, but also for adults too. And then we talked about elders and what would it take for there to be less fear around learning with older people and more openness to receiving their wisdom. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary, but does anyone have anything else to say from my group?
That sounds beautiful. So we've got eldership and the council of all beings, and like really like integrating the wisdom of the older groups. That sounds perfect. Thank you for sharing. And then we finally got the whys. The why are we learning? Maybe this is the hardest one. Why? Group of why. Who wants to go from why?
Come on, group 5.
Perhaps maybe the best summary, the most fair summary would be why is because we've survived to be able to. What it's going to take to get from now to 2060 is a practice of collective imagination that we're getting to co-create through this time.
Beautiful. Yeah, that we managed to survive and co-create what's coming.
I think I'd add to that. I'm not quite sure that I'm recording what we discussed or just making it up. But it seemed to me that part of the why is because we've got a new beginning. We obviously put things up big time in the past, and now we realize that we need to educate ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, so we can become full human beings in a full society with a wholesome relationship to the entire planet and all life on Earth.
Oh, beautiful.
For a start.
That's a good why. Yeah. In the beginning. Thanks, Penny. And yeah, embracing the wholeness of who we are in a wholesome way. Well, this brings the session to a close. I have absolutely loved this like speed session of dreaming together for learning and education. And I would love to hear any feedback that you have. If anyone wants to share anything now for the next minute or so, or pop anything into the chat, that'd be great. Anything that I could improve on as well, anything that particularly resonated. But otherwise, it was just like such a joy to be in this dream space together and imagine different possibilities for learning and education. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you. Just a little tiny bit from me. I sent out in a message today that we are inviting you to add practice that you would like to share with each other to a scrapbook, online scrapbook. So there's a, should go. There's a post about it there, you know, it's stuff you feel really happy for others to use, just like Jay shared with us today. Do feel free to add your own practice in there, because we'll all benefit from it. It's a resource for all of us. And next time, something else. I think we might see if I can find someone to help us with social dreaming, but I haven't quite got them nailed down on the date yet. But this time next month, Wednesday 15th, we will gather again to learn something new. Watch your inboxes for more on that. So thank you, everyone.